Wondering what's next in your business or personal life? Welcome to Success to Significance, Life After Breaking Through Glass Ceilings, a podcast dedicated to helping you with all of life's challenges, discoveries, and opportunities. Whether you're seeking a new career, retirement, or simply wanting to make an impact in your community or the world. Join Jen Du Plessis and her guests as they explore how to start, what to do when you're in the thick of a change or growth, and how to leave a mark in this world after breaking through your next achievement. You are moments away from the aha you've been seeking.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Success to Significance. I'm your host, Lady Jen Du Plessis, and with me today is Chandra Lynn. And she probably pronounces it Chandra, right?
No, you had it right, Chandra. Thank you.
Of course. Let me introduce you to her really quickly. She's a certified transformational coach and the author of Root to Rise, How to Love Life. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. And founder of Glow Living, a platform dedicated to helping people love life. Right? Love life. And she had a 25-year career in marketing and working with brands like Apple and Avid and Universal Studio. But then she felt this deeper calling. And by the way, this is exactly what this podcast is about. This level of success that we have that we're identified with. And then we want to shift into how do I get back? Right? How do I get more out of life? So she blends human needs psychology with soulful insight to support lasting transformations. As the creator of Root to Rise framework, which we're going to talk about a little bit, she empowers people, especially women, navigating life transitions to reconnect with authenticity, strengthen emotional resilience, which is huge today, and rise into purpose. So with that said, welcome to the show. And again, we had so much fun on our pre-interview that we probably should have recorded that.
I know. Well, we're gonna have fun today too. I think we're so like-minded, and that whole idea of giving back is really where I feel people can actually find that joy and fulfillment that they've been looking for, when you're getting into that mode. And I know you do a lot of it.
Well, I believe that in life we learn, we earn, and then we return. Right. We have this compelling, and I remember for years and years I was, and I still am to a certain extent, I'm just further along in it, but had that yearning. We learn, I just added one. We learn, we earn, and then we have the yearning to return, right? The yearn to return and give back to people in what we've experienced in our lives so they don't have to experience all the trauma and, successes and failures, that we can condense that for them, and I know that's what your mission is now, is like, hey, knock, knock, knock. There's so much more life out there, right? So let's just start with this. So, because we want everyone who's listening to have a tipping point, a defining moment, a trigger moment that changes their life. And I've had one, and I know you have one. What was that moment that you realized that success just wasn't fulfilling you in the same way that it used to, and that something had to change?
I think that it's interesting. A one moment in time. I think there's a few different moments that layered together to really make me deepen my commitment. When I started Glow Living, I was also doing marketing work. And so for those out there who are straddling multiple worlds, wearing multiple hats, they could probably relate to this. You have this passion idea, this passion project, right? Vision for something, that you want to offer back or align to. But yet the realities of getting that started might be one that requires you to continue, the day job or whatever, and until you can pivot. And I think that for me, that moment of I really am going to step into this was a few different steps. One was, belief in myself. It's very easy for me to step in the role of supporting others. It took permission to be able to say, I'm going to do what I do for other people for myself, that I'm worth that. What I have to offer is significant enough. And I got that through just a lot of confirmations. People, experiencing the Root to Rise method, people trying to struggling in life and having those aha moments. So getting that feedback and going, wow, I really am onto something. Like this is really, combined with some really heart opening, let's just say, I don't want to use breaking as much as opening experiences. I was straddling these two worlds, efforting in both, and my need for money and, stability was winning out and so I was doing my marketing consulting until my best friend of 40 years died by suicide. And it was this moment of intense pain that
Right.
made me realize that the commitment that I have to the idea of helping people was not, just for me, that there's people really truly in need of this. And even if there's a lot of healers out there and people and we need them all. And so it was the recognition that, somebody's going to resonate with my voice and my message and going to be helped. And if I can basically be an encouraging, safe place to turn for someone, then it's all worth the effort. And even if it meant, taking risks and reducing my own financial stability.
Yeah. And I think a lot of us do that where we're, I always compare it to standing on two boats, right? Because in the middle of a harbor, because this needs attention. No, this one does. No, this one does. No, 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 this one does. And eventually you get exhausted and you have to make a decision. You're just forced to make a decision, right? And you have to pick a lane. You have to follow the pile of money. I want to go back to what you said, however, your first piece of this, which is that you had to give yourself permission to follow this. This is foreign to me. I'm going to be honest. I come from being in financial services and being around men. In fact, it was even before that. When I was in college, I was the only woman in a class of 67 men for engineering, architectural design, and construction engineering. So I've kind of come up like that. Oh, maybe it goes even further back, right? My dad was an alcoholic, so I was just kind of on my own because they had their own problems. So I was kind of on my own, and I developed this internal confidence and resilience that I had, and I carried it all the way through and even into business. So for me, it wasn't that I had to give myself any permission because I felt confident in it. What is your experience with women? Do you find that most women lack this confidence? Most have the confidence, just don't have the awareness of it. Where do you think that lies? And in your coaching, do you help them with that?
Yeah, and so breaking this down, I actually was really confident in what I was doing. I have an MBA in marketing. I got it when I was 24 years old. I
Right.
worked with all of these big brands. In that lane, I was confident. I think what I meant by giving myself permission was to step out of like a service-oriented role where I was helping other people with their marketing and their businesses and on their vision to like
Could do it for yourself.
totally following my vision and going, okay, this vision has value, and that what would it look like if I really stepped on the gas, really believed in myself, put financial resources into it, put time and focus into it. And there, I don't, it's interesting because I'm not sure if it was confidence or if it was like fear of failure, because it was like, okay, if I really go
Yeah.
all in and doesn't it isn't successful, like I've been successful in my whole career, so if this isn't
Could I
successful,
handle it?
I'm going to
Yeah.
be looking at myself. There's no one else to look at, right?
Right.
I'm not,
Right.
there wasn't like a failure on the part of the company's leadership. It would be me, and that I think that's kind of maybe a little bit more specific about what I was going
Mhm.
through. However, yes, I think women can lack confidence. I think women can get into support in service roles because of how comfortable it is. And in terms of like
Right.
people's expectations and things like that,
Yeah.
it's an easier role to fit into than to take a real, leadership, proactive, like, I don't want to misstep here. I think that it's just a little bit easier with some societal, norms. But there's a lot of women who do it and are so inspirational, and I definitely look to them to model that. It's like, yeah, we have just as much, the idea is just as great from a woman as it is for a man. It's just that the service-oriented role can be often offered. So you mentioned about working with engineers and, in this space and everything. And I found that because I worked with music engineers a lot, and I found that it was really easy for me to be kind of the marketing and PR person. There are a lot of women in that role, but there were less women in the actual engineering roles, and
The
it
technical
was very
roles.
male
Yeah.
dominated.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so I think I just wanted to be known as more than just kind of like the marketing and PR chick offering marketing services. I
Right.
wanted, a deeper level of connection, of fulfillment, of impact.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. Okay, so when you stepped away from the corporate world, right? The corporate world, what did you have to unlearn about identity, validation, your self-worth? Because a lot of people, think, okay, well, we're tied to them. Again, this is the learn, earn, return, right? We're in that learn stage. And so there's a complacency of, I'm really good in this segment. And so I'm just going to take all of these attributes, all of this credibility experience, I'm going to plop it into here. What did you experience? What did you have to unlearn in order
Well,
to?
the good news is for me, what I focused on was really more bridging my two worlds than it was abandoning, what I was doing with marketing.
Right.
I'm still working with companies. It's just a different way. Now I'm more strategic. I offer more executive coaching, corporate wellness. I still am doing some marketing strategy. It's based on human need psychology, understanding their customer journeys. So it's just that it's a different focus, and I think that that's part of what makes me successful because I'm able to, use that, blend the two, and that's a very unique offering. So I think that it wasn't so much what I had to do was I had to stop being the tactics person, on the marketing side. Like I'm not the one that's going to execute everything anymore. I'm the strategist.
Uh,
I'm the
right.
consultant.
So
I'm
you had
the
to work higher. Yeah.
It was just a different lens, I guess, different
Mhm.
vantage point. But having come from the person that also is the doer, I have a
Yeah.
sensitivity about what it actually takes to get it done. So my strategy is based in reality, and I understand the impact that that's going to have on their resources. So
As
I think
opposed to
that it's
theory.
all just an integration more than like, a huge shift. I think it's taken years, and it's a bridging, it's an integration of all of who I am. And, my Glow Living logo is kind of represented in this necklace now is a multifaceted diamond. And that's
Mhm.
why I look at us is that we have these different aspects of ourselves, and we shine different aspects in the light, based on what's appropriate with what audience we're talking to and things like that. But we are all one. And so, yeah, I think that was my learning there, was how to integrate all of who I am and not have to abandon any aspect. I just try to use that as a strength.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. Thank you. Thanks for clarifying. Okay, so let's talk about Route to Rise. So hold up your book.
Oh, well,
Let's
thanks
get
for
your
the,
book in there.
the ability to do
Yeah.
that in a safe
Yeah. So
space.
for those of you
Oh,
that are not watching,
it's
she has her
always.
book held up. Yeah, Route to Rise, beautifully crafted. The graphics are beautiful. You probably did them because you're a marketing person. But yeah, I mean, it's just really well done. But let's talk about the framework that you have in there in Route to Rise, because most people are going, okay, so what are we rooting to? And you have oranges, right? Are they oranges or lemons?
They're actually plums, I come to find out. And I do want to give a shout out to my
Yes.
designer because
Yeah.
I work with the most amazing illustrator of all time. His name is Patrick Boyer of Unwanted Cowboy, and he is amazing, like on so many levels. I work with him with all my client stuff too. But this is a metaphor. The fruit on the cover of the book is a metaphor. It's that when we are in our healthiest, when we have balanced our roots and we've done all this work, we have something to give back. It's the fruits of our efforts, and it's our offering to the world. It's something nourishing. It's something that really, supports life. And so it's an invitation really to find, your version of that fruit to be able to offer back. And sometimes, it seems a little, I'm not like a Pollyanna person. I say I'm teaching people how to love life because it's messy, because it gets hard and uncertain, and it's not always easy to do. And I think it's not everybody's ready to just be jumping right into, well, what are my gifts that I'm offering out in the world? They might be really fighting for some survival in life. And so it's a very practical guide that's saying, yeah, this is the pinnacle, right? This is the pinnacle is we're healthy and we're offering out and we're
Right.
getting a lot of joy and fulfillment from that. But to get there is a process. So like you said, there's a framework to the book, the Root to Rise framework. It's a trademark framework. It's based on the yoga tree pose, actually. So it's about
On the
what does
what?
rooting
On the
down
what?
really mean?
I'm sorry, on the what? It's based on what?
It's based on the tree pose in yoga. So,
Oh,
because
okay.
sometimes it's
Okay.
easier to get it into your body when you can manifest it. So there's actually a framework in here
Okay.
where
Yeah.
we define what
Yeah.
the root system really is. It's these
Right.
five major areas of your life. And then you learn, well, what are the human needs that, we're serving with each of those, in each of those root systems. There's these needs that are really driving every one of our decisions and how we're going to meet them in healthy and unhealthy ways. So there's an analysis in there as the first of three phases, the roots phase, where you're learning how you've been serving those human needs in the different areas of your life. And that can unlock a lot of ahas about why our current life conditions are the way they are.
Right.
And then there's two more phases after that, and the core phase of building emotional resilience, to weather the storms of life, and
Hmm.
then the rise phase, which is, what do you want to be known for? What would you like to, offer back, and all of the things associated with that. So it's not assuming that we can just, be successful immediately. And I think where we get into trouble is and maybe even wake up in midlife going, wow, things didn't turn out the way that, we wanted, and maybe feeling like we have to go back to our root system to figure out where did we get stuck along the way? Why didn't it, how do we reinforce our foundation in order to maybe even realign to a new version of success? What's authentic to us? Like I thought success was going to be being a marketing consultant, working in marketing for a company or whatever for the rest of my life. And when I realized I had a way deeper calling, I had to go through that realignment we talked about in that integration process. So this book basically walks you through all of that.
Yeah, I love that. And there's so many questions I want to unpack. Okay, so the book will go through that piece of it. I'll come to that in just a second. I want to go back
Yeah.
just a little bit because what you had said is, I had to realize I had to go back to my roots. A lot of people just, look at that, especially if you're blending human needs psychology, right, with this soulful insight that you're blending. Why is it the high achievers over rely on strategy and under rely on that emotional resilience? And I got to tell you, and maybe you have better insight on this, because for years I was in the hustle, and everything what I was doing was the mechanics, right? The strategy, the mechanics, until one day I realized, hey, you know what? I have a high IQ, but I don't have a high EQ.
Mm.
And I had to develop my EQ, which was my mindset. So this is the blending of the strategy over the emotional resilience, right? Because when mindset plus mechanics, but when they're combined, that equals momentum in my life, and that's one of the mantras I use in my business. So you're talking very similar about this, but why do you think? Because I don't want to answer why I thought I needed to stay in mechanics or strategy. Why do high achievers just rely on strategy and they don't want to or step into the soulful side of things because they see soulful woo woo? You just showed a yoga pose and they're going, oh, yoga. Right.
Totally. And just so you know, I
Yeah.
rely on nature-based wisdom and yoga for metaphors and things like that because
Yeah.
they are very universal and approachable. And really, the book is for anyone. It doesn't matter what, race,
Right. Right.
gender, and
No,
all
I
of
get
that.
it. I
Yeah, there are
totally
all
get
those,
it. Yeah.
Anyway, to answer your question,
Yeah.
I think, well, because I'm a high achieving person, at a young age, and I think that we're told there's strategies out there, right? I mean, people are telling us every minute of the day on social media what we need to do to be successful. So
Mhm.
we can effort, we can, take these steps. We can rely on other people's strategies. We can find
Right.
it, tune it for ourselves, but it's a doership.
Mhm.
It's, it's progress. I think people feel a lot of joy from just progressing through steps. So there's a certain
Right.
amount
The
of,
check marks, right? So
yeah,
they
there's
can
a certain amount
see
of
things
fulfillment that
happen.
just comes from that.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
problem is that it's limited.
Hmm.
And because what happens in life for most people is they're faced with external challenges. It's, if we are stepping through these things in a perfect world,
And
yeah,
everything
everything will be
works.
fine.
And
But the
everything
world
works.
isn't perfect, and we're
Yeah.
dealing with grief and loss. We're dealing with change. We're dealing with, you know, our physical
External.
changes, hormone
Yeah.
changes. There's so many changes that we have to go through in life that we constantly have to be updating our plan. And these steps that we thought were going to work end up being, needing to be different when we get to a different vista. So another metaphor is the metaphor of climbing a mountain. We're taking
Hmm.
these steps, right? We're stepping. We have a plan, we have a map, and then we get to a different vista and we're like, wow, this is different than I thought it would be. I'm going to have to, maybe I want to go a different way from here. And
Hmm.
so we course correct. And I
Hmm.
think that when there's emotional aspects involved with that, it could be, with that different view or that different life experience, we have to adjust. And it's not just about finding new steps. Sometimes it's about going in really deep and going, what do we want now? What we
Yeah.
want might be different. Why we want that is something most people don't even answer. What needs is it serving? What are we really going to get out of it? What do we visualize as, why is success in that way important to us at all? And then what are we willing to do about it is a really big question that most people don't answer either. Well, we're willing to take these steps, but are we willing to completely, pivot our lives? Are we
Mhm.
willing to make hard
Well, it's not
decisions?
strong enough, right? It has to be
Yeah.
strong enough, a stronger pull. In my practice, I have a motto of stop working in and on your business and start living above and beyond it. That beyond is everybody's beyond. You made the comment about success. You thought you'd be in marketing forever. I thought success was buying a Mont Blanc pen when I was in my 20s, right? And I was so excited about it. And I showed everybody. I was like, "Oh, look at me, I'm writing with my Mont Blanc." Until the day that the threads got ruined and I pulled it apart and I was wearing a red dress with the square
The
shoulders.
shoulder pads.
Yeah, the shoulder pads, and it spewed all over it, and I was blinking and the ink was coming down my
Oh my
my lashes,
gosh.
and I thought this is not success. you know and so understanding, I always use the example of a ladder on a wall. When you climb those rungs on the ladder, and then you find out you're on the wrong ladder,
Ugh.
right? Right.
Right? That's
Yeah.
exactly what I mean by it.
Yes, you're just like, this is where I want to go. So for someone who's achieved everything and they look like that on the outside, like your success look like on the outside. So on paper, they're great, but they feel just totally disconnected from where they're going, what they're doing every day. They're waking up every morning. It's not a draw enough, right? They're pushing themselves out of bed instead of springing out. Where do they begin?
I have to say it's going back to your roots. We have
Right.
to. Here's
I'm
the
glad
thing,
your
root
book is
work is
called this.
messy. Root work, think about being in the muck. It's down under the earth. There's a
Yeah,
little deeper layer that you have to go through. The book guides you through those tough questions to get to some understanding, because those roots have gotten stuck or damaged along the way. And that's the
right.
thing is if everything was perfect, then yeah, it would be a certain way. But then we realize, oh, perfect is like you said, I'm on a different ladder. So it's the way we're defining that needs to change too. So that's what I meant about what do you want? What does success look like to you? And it may be different now than it did before. Like I'm with you on, I kind of understand the Mont Blanc thing as far as like for me it was owning a home and having, my own business
Certain
and
car.
all of those things,
Right.
And then when I realized that yeah, I can achieve those things. I can make a certain amount of money. I have the house or whatever. There was something still nagging at me. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why isn't this enough? And it's
Yeah.
because I was being called to a higher purpose. I felt like, wow, I need a deeper level of meaning. I need to contribute something back. I
Yeah.
need to feel like what I'm doing, it's
Yeah.
not just for significance. It's because I'm getting enough confirmations that the world is in need. The world
Mhm.
is in need of help.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I can only do so much as one person. And so that's why my goal is, to help as many people as I can. But even if it's just one, then it's worth the focus.
Yeah. It always takes me back to the notebook. Do you remember in the notebook, he's like, what do you want, woman? What do you want? Right. And we just, it's like, I don't know what I want because I'm trying to please everybody else. I don't know what I
That's it
want.
right there. Yeah.
I don't know what I want. So in practical, in the real time, in the way the world works, and not in theory, right? What does emotional resilience actually look like? How do people respond differently? Is there a decision-making process for you? What does it actually look like when we step out of the theory of it into the daily practice of it?
Yeah. Okay. So we're moving from this phase one root level work of rebalancing your root system, figuring out where you got blocked, how you've been meeting your needs, how, that shift, what you want, why you want it, what you're willing to do about it. All that stuff is in the first phase, right? What you're asking is the second phase. It's that middle piece, the core, the trunk of the tree, whatever you want to call it. And what I think emotional resilience has to do with is first, there's something called an emotional triad that I learned in my coaching practice and that I help people understand, which is this three-pronged approach of for emotional mastery. Basically, so think about, I'm going to demonstrate something that'll maybe help with this a little bit. Like one aha moment that I had when I was learning this is that I was in effect doing depression to myself. And when I was, having those low moments. And the first thing I
Right.
did was I put my hand on my forehead and I would like start to turn inward
Ooh,
and turn
physically.
in my
Yeah.
focus.
Yeah.
So like what I was doing with my physiology
Mm-hmm.
was the first leg of this triangle.
Yeah.
I was turning in, my breathing was slowing. I had my hand on my forehead. I was starting to kind of get a little fetal on it, And the second leg was when I was doing that, what I was focusing on. So I would be focusing on the thing that was making me upset. The
Yeah.
third leg is the meaning that I was attaching to it. I
Mm-hmm.
have choices about what I wanted to think about
Mm-hmm.
I was focusing on. And I was using certain language with myself. I was attaching certain meaning. And in
Ah,
effect, that physiology, what I'm focusing on and the meaning and the language I'm using that I'm attaching to it is the triad that can determine the outcome of my emotional state.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
could do depression if I wanted to. And I didn't know I had that power to go. I could also,
Not do it. I
use
can choose
that.
not
The
to.
minute my hand goes to my forehead now, I
You're like,
literally go, nope,
uh-oh.
nope,
Right.
and
That's
then
your
stop
trigger.
that
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to get into a more resourced state, maybe doing something different with my physiology, taking a walk, getting in nature,
Mm-hmm.
journaling, talking to a friend, like starting to do a different action. And I'm
Dance.
going to look really careful about what I'm focusing on and the meanings that I'm attaching to that. Because what that is, that physiology, the focus and the meaning is body, mind, and spirit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because what we're doing with our body calls in something. What we focus on is what we're using our mind for.
There
And
we
the
go.
meaning we're attached is what's summoning the emotional state, which is really like the frequency of our spirit, our vibration.
Yeah.
And so when I connected those dots, that body, mind, and spirit was really this emotional triad, it was a huge opportunity for me to start practicing with people what they do, what their patterns are, and how we can change their state, change
Mm-hmm.
their
Mm-hmm.
emotional resilience based on like basically re re I really it's like
Recalibrating.
rewiring.
Yeah, it's rewiring, it's recalibrating. Yeah. And I experience that too. And just so that our listeners are fully aware of this doesn't have to be that you put your hand on your forehead and go,
Right. Thank you. Right.
my husband, he has not graduated to the emotional intelligence level that I have. It's required lots of years of training so that I'm not impacted by a nasty gram. I'm not impacted by someone looking at me crooked. I'm just not impacted by those things anymore. But it took a lot of years to get there. And there are moments, right? Both of us, you said, when where I'm going, why am I feeling anxious? What just happened? Was there an email that just twisted me up and I didn't realize it? Right. But his response is heavy breathing. Right. He will, and rather than doing the head and down and caving in, his is right. And I immediately know he's been affected by something and we need to, snap out of it. As Cher said in that movie many, many, many years ago that I never watched when I was at that age, but Moonstruck. And she's like, snap out of it. And he, to snap him out of that circling the drain, as I call it, right? That so many people do, they just circle that drain and just say, well, I'll just work harder. I'll just keep working because then it'll go away. I'll just avoid it, and I
I
think,
appreciate you bringing that up because of I use myself as an example, but yes, everybody has their own patterning, with this, and we don't even realize it's a pattern sometimes,
no, no,
and yes, that's such an exciting revelation, when you realize, oh, he has this big sigh, and even you as his partner can support him in that because he might be doing it, and you can go, oh, I heard the sigh. And that can be like, that can actually help him go, oh yeah,
yeah, yeah, no, and I do, and we do
in
it all the
tandem.
time. Yeah, we do it all the time, and especially for him because he had a traumatic brain injury as well, so he manifests even more of And let me just ask you this question as we kind of close out our time.
Yeah.
Can this state prior to going to the rise, right? Can this state and the emotional resilience be perceived as, I'm going to say narcissist first, but then I'm going to say comma or victimness, being a victim. It's sometimes it's a very fine line. Narcissists always want themselves to be seen as a victim. But then there are actually people that just are in the victim world and they're not narcissists at all.
Yeah. I mean,
Talk
I
about that.
think what you're talking about is what's called the drama triangle, which is about
Yeah.
the victim, perpetrator,
Uh-huh.
rescuer triangle. So it's a
Right.
different triangle. And it's interesting because I think that that one goes back to our needs and the meaning that we attach to things. Because, I think that, well, narcissism is actually a lack of empathy. And so people, they're serving their own needs and everything's going through the lens of how does this benefit me or hurt me
Yeah.
or whatever. And it's harder for them to have empathy about the other side. So we're talking about like this could be another podcast episode. But I think it's great awareness because how the lens we look through is something I do talk about in the book because once we have an awareness about certain things, you can't unknow it, right? So this is
Yes.
just a
Yeah.
discovery process to learn our patterns and ourselves more deeply and take that space and that pause to ask ourselves those questions and in a way that's supported and guided. And that's what Root to Rise is really about because it's a journey, I don't know, we could keep going up that mountain and we can get to the top and guess what? We're just going to see, oh, I want to go to that next mountain. It
Right.
doesn't end, It's
Right.
like
It doesn't end. Yeah.
right. So what I say is like it's really about awareness and being able to course correct and grow and help other people and just all of that we're all talking about in this beautiful wellness space that we're
Yeah.
in. And
Yeah.
it's just a
No,
different
I
approach. It's
know,
going to be one
it's,
that
oh, I'm
yeah.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I
Yeah,
was
I
going
was
to say
gonna,
it's going to be one that resonates with some people and not others
yeah.
if they like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say one of the things that, as a speaker, I work on a lot is making sure I don't say, I come from Colorado, so we have a very lazy language. And I mean this in the nicest way. We don't say, are you going to go? We say, are you gonna go?
Gonna go.
Do you want to go? instead of do you want to go? So I'm always correcting myself there. And I've been in Virginia for 40 years. You would think that I've picked up Virginia accent, but I haven't. So it's very lazy. Then I work on, next thing I notice when I watch some speaking that I've done is I say, you know, a lot, like, well, there we go. Some people say like. Sometimes I say right. And I'm always correcting, right? And there we go. As soon as I fix one, I find another. And as soon as I fix that, I find another. And I have found in my own emotional resilience and intelligence journey that as soon as I fix one, I have another backup as a protection factor that will be the way that I now get triggered. So I may get triggered from doing something, getting an email. The next day, I'm getting triggered from what someone said. And the next right.
What I hear is that you're optimizing yourself through consciousness, you're aware.
Yeah.
And I really in the book try to invite people to think that we're not fixing, like we're not to be fixed. We're perfect as we're like,
we're evolving.
Exactly. We're just learning. Nobody's perfect. And that's a tough hill, to climb when we're wanting, everything we say to come out perfectly. Believe me, when I started to record the audiobook to this, and I'm born, raised in California. I am a California girl through and through. So the knows and the likes and the everything is all, all just how I grew up. It's how I talk. I try not to sound like a valley girl. I know that it's there. And, and it's part of what makes me unique. So I try not to be like, oh, I got to fix that. But I might be mindful about it. I might be trying to improve and optimize, but I have to, we got to give ourselves some break somewhere, right?
Well, I was measuring it against what you were saying is once you get to that mountain, you want to go to other mountains, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's that same thing. I love it. Okay. So let me ask you this. So what would the younger version of Chandra, oh my gosh, now I've got myself all mixed up.
Chandra, you got it right.
This ambitious marketing executive, if you were sitting across her today, what would you tell her about success, her worthiness, getting the loving life sooner? What would you tell her? Because this is the message you're going to tell to someone who's listening.
Yeah. I would first say congratulations. I mean, you've accomplished a lot, and I would then say it's not entirely about all that you're doing. Be careful of, kind of the Cinderella role, like, you just have to effort and do and look for the quality over the quantity, look at your human needs. If I understood human needs as a basis for my decision making, I think that yes, I would have grown in different ways faster because I didn't understand what was really behind all my decisions. I was kind of going with my gut and hoping for the best. And I think that understanding why I'm making the decisions that I'm making and what needs they're serving and whether they're healthy and unhealthy is a huge, huge awareness that can really help. And it would have helped me make choices that would have, had significant impact, I think. So I actually offer a free quiz for people to identify their top driving need because we are making decisions based on this stuff.
Yeah, we are. And we'll have the link in the show notes so that everybody can get access to it because you had sent that information to me. So we'll make sure that everyone has access to it so you can take that quiz and get access to the book and all that stuff. As you were talking about that, it was reminding me of, a psychology major. And there's this, I don't know what the word is. Okay. Well, anyway, this faux pas, I'm just going to say faux pas because I can't think of the word. This faux pas about, oh, you're a psychology major. When you graduate, you're not going to make any money because you're a psychology major. Why don't you go into something that is the doing, right? So I'm amazed that psychology majors aren't exponentially ahead of everybody else because they already have the key. We have to go through all these things that everyone tells us we have to. And then we one day realize, wow, there's more to life.
Yeah, so both of my grandparents were psychologists,
Oh,
and
interesting.
yeah, and so maybe I just had been grew up with this mindset. I think
Hadn't tapped into it though,
I
completely.
hadn't
Yeah.
tapped into. I've
Yeah.
always been that friend that people can go to, for support and help and guidance and stuff. But I didn't fully step into it as a career path right away because I think I felt like at the time I was too young. Like in my 20s, is somebody
Right,
gonna want
right.
to? Yeah, somebody will take a marketing advice, but are they gonna? They'll learn about their social media or whatever. But are they going to value me? And I kind of feel like I'm 55 now, and as I enter that more
Yeah.
wise woman, phase of life, that, maybe that's why it's coming out more because it's just a natural evolution, in that maiden,
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think I think about the maiden mother crone, right? The
Right.
maiden she's kind of like the knight. She's also achieving and finding herself. And
Hmm.
in that kind of 20-year-old self, I was really about exploring, my capabilities as it reflect with the reflections of the world back to me, right?
Right. And it's chasing the almighty dollar because that's what we're told to do, and that's where the burnout happens. And that's where we get to that low. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's not real low, it's just low enough that we're saying there's got to be more. And now we're willing to explore it. And it's how do you, and this is a rhetorical question. I'm not asking the question, but it's like, how do you help someone realize that it's coming? You're
Part
going
of
to have
growth.
the problem, right? When someone doesn't really care about the problem today because it's not in front of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think getting back to that advice, it's really about just figuring out what you want and why you want it and seeing if you can challenge yourself on that. We
Hmm.
was there a certain belief system? Some people will go with traditional careers because that's what was expected of them in their family. Some
Right.
people
Right.
go the creative direction, but right, they have that scarcity mentality that if I'm an
Yeah.
artist, I'm never going to make
Yeah.
money. I need to keep my day job. There's all those are all belief systems or things that we were told. And so to challenge those and get into the whys and take time to answer that for yourself and exploring them through the human needs lens can really help you with that.
Yeah, and I've always said too is, throw away, and I'm just going to use this right now, just throw away the limiting beliefs and look at the lifting beliefs because those lifting beliefs can take you so much further. And it's just like, just let them go,
I
let
love the
them go.
lifting beliefs idea. And I think sometimes people don't know that they're actually replaying over and over limiting beliefs. They first have to
Right.
identify that they have a limiting belief because to them it's just part
Yeah.
of how they see it. It's their view of the
Turning it
world. It's
right
a
and
life
turn it
view.
into lifting, right? Turn it into a lifting belief that says, wait a minute, I can change the outcome. I can change how I'm thinking about this. It goes back to the triad, right? The emotional triad. I love.
Yes, exactly. The belief system it has a big impact on the triad, with the triad because
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
that language we use with ourselves. I'm not
Yeah.
good enough. I'm
Yeah.
afraid of being successful, or I'm not pretty enough, or I'm not smart enough, or I'm not worthy of love. Most people those are the two fears. I'm not good enough and I'm not worthy of love,
Yeah. Amazing.
and
Amazing. And
success.
I know that's what it is worthiness. And yeah. Okay. What's on your heart as we close out our time together? What would you like to share with those that are listening based on what we've talked about today?
Well, first, such deep gratitude to you for having me on the
Well, thank
show
you.
and
Yeah.
helping me to communicate, some of these things that hopefully will resonate with your audience. And I just feel like we're scratching the surface. And I guess that's what the book's for. If people want to dive in a little bit deeper. But yeah, it's just thank you so much. And then, yeah, as far as the audience goes, if there's, any seeds of anything here that, pique your interest, follow that, learn whether you're exploring my work or somebody else's, encourage your own personal growth because it is your life, YOLO baby. Do you and grow. And that's I think with that growth, you'll land on some of these things we're talking about in your own way and be able to share that your own wisdom with other people. And those will be your gifts. Those will be your fruits of your labor. So keep going.
Beautiful. Okay, so we'll have the link to your gift. We'll have the link to your all your social media and obviously the link to your book so that people can get your
Thank
book
you.
and learn more
Yes,
about
thank
this. So
you.
thank you so much for joining us today, Chandra. I
It was
really
a pleasure. Such a pleasure.
Appreciate it. Well, and thank you all for listening. We really appreciate that. Head on over to YouTube. Be sure you're subscribing to my YouTube channel. We'll have the link below, and you'll see this and my other podcasts there as well. And until then, we'll see you on the next episode.
You've been listening to Success to Significance with Jen Du Plessis, the #1 podcast for people wanting to give more value and make an impact. Loved this episode? Be sure to subscribe right now at www.jenduplessis.com/S2S for more stories, strategies, and thoughts to help you gain significance and success. And if you like what we're doing, don't forget to give us a rating and review so we can continue to bring you the best content possible. Join us next week for another breakthrough episode. Thank you for listening.